Okay, class, let's take a look at some of the problems you'll be doing here on Lesson 3. We're on set number 2 on page 163. And we're told here to write the addition problem that corresponds, we're number 4, write the addition problem corresponds to each of the following subtraction problems and then solve each problem. And again, that's simple. Just taking a look at the first one, we have 6.1 minus negative 1.9. It's very similar to the example that we had actually. And this is an easy one because we just simply will turn this into an addition problem of 6.1, and we take the negative, should have put my parentheses around there, negative 1.9 becomes positive 1.9, and when I add the two together I'll end up with 8 or 8.0. Being that we had decimals, we can put it either way, it's same value. And again, we're doing something that we've been doing before. It's good to repeat these types of operations so that you get more used to it, more accustomed to it, and you develop this skill. So let's move over to number 5. What are they asking? Find each of the following differences. So again, I think we will take that same approach. We would have 0.8 minus negative 3. Now again, if we pause for a minute, we're subtracting a negative. Remember, think of that as adding a positive because we're subtracting a negative. Imagine something bad we already talked about. You go to the bank and they pulled money out of your account that they shouldn't have. It was a mistake. So when they subtract that negative that they had placed on your account, it turns positive. So again, just the thinking process should be able to connect that. So we have 0.8. Now we did it mathematically. We're going to change this to plus, but now the negative 3 becomes positive 3. Okay? And let's go ahead and add these two, and we would have 3.8. And sometimes it is good if we're working with decimals, and here we have to the first decimal place, or to the 10th, or that is a 10th. Sometimes it's good to actually write our numbers the same way so that we can now see the balance between the two and where the numbers go. In this particular case, obviously, if we were adding them this way, we could see that we could do that visually in our mind, that we can add these columns and we'd see 3.8. So just a little hint there. Let's go on to number 6. And again, I'm not doing these problems simply because I think you can do them on your own. Running over these examples over and over wouldn't necessarily teach you anything. Just do the problems. Now here we're told to find each of the following products, and I'm just going to look over them, and we see 6 times 1.5. Well, that's simple multiplication. But on B, we have 6 times negative 1.5, so it's a positive negative. That result will be negative. In C, we have negative 11 times a positive 9.09. Again, a negative outcome. And as we look at D, we would have the same. Again, the negative moves inside. Nonetheless, we still have a positive and a negative. Negative, positive, positive, negatives always equal negative. Now we go with E and F, where we have 2 negatives, and we know that 2 negatives multiplied will yield a positive number. So let's look at number 7. Find each of the following quotients. Again, we're not doing this math. We're just looking at what the positive or negative outcome. You should be doing the math. A would be positive, simply because of positive divided by positive. B would also be positive because we have a negative divided by a negative. Now C would be negative because we have a negative divided by a positive. And likewise in D, negative divided by positive. Then we have a positive divided by negative, which also would be negative. And then the last one, negative divided by negative, similar to B, that would be a positive. Looking on to number 8, what number should replace the box in each of the following equations to make it true? Well, we are doing math here, and just keep an eye on what the answer should be. The first one's pretty obvious, 2.5. We're adding the opposite, negative 2.5. But you should take a look here. The math is not that difficult. It's just challenging you in terms of positives and negatives. We have a positive being multiplied by something to yield a negative, so obviously the answer will be negative. What do I multiply by 2.5 to get negative 2.5? Well, that would simply be negative 1. And again, I think that you can probably go through all these and just be very careful handling your positives and negatives. And now we're dealing with the number trick again, and I think you've done it enough. You should be able to understand it. The only thing is we're going to end up with rational numbers. We're going to have these decimals, positive and negative. We've got to be very careful here. We're going to be multiplying by -3. Okay, so again, just applying that same basic math, being very careful. And then here on number 10, we're asked to use a calculator to do each of the following problems and apply the rules for the positive and negative numbers in your calculation. So again, here you're being given the opportunity to use a calculator. I think you can pretty much use it whenever you like, depending upon what your teacher says. If you feel that you need to do more multiplication and become more accustomed to the multiplication table, then maybe you want to avoid that calculator. But in this case, they're actually giving it to you because these numbers are quite a bit complicated if you were to do them simply manually. But again, the focus is applying the positive and negatives to your calculations properly. So that's the end of lesson number 3.